Hi there. Welcome to Melted Stone, the spot for stories that grab you and won't let you go. If you love drama, surprises, and moments that make you say, no way, you're in the right place. Subscribe and dive into tales full of twists, bold moves, and endings you'll remember. This is Melted Stone. Hit the bell and let's get the story rolling.
I'm pregnant.
And how long have you known?
The world, I'd once believed, operated on a simple, almost transactional logic. Work hard, be good, and life would reward you. My parents, paragons of suburban piety, had drilled this into me alongside nightly prayers and Sunday school. Theirs was a world of manicured lawns, unwavering faith, and a family structure as rigid and predictable as the church pews we occupied every Sunday. Everyone had a role, every action a preordained consequence. If you toiled, you prospered. That was the bedrock of the existence I thought I was forging with Christine. 2 years. 2 years since Christine and I had found each other amidst the hushed reverence of the university library, both of us hunched over textbooks, chasing degrees and dreams. I can still conjure the sound of her laugh that day, a sudden bright cascade of notes that sliced through the silence and lodged itself in my memory. It felt definitive. We were a unit, ambition thrumming between us. Stable jobs, a house with a yard just beyond the city's sprawl, a golden retriever, maybe a couple of kids, the whole damn Norman Rockwell painting. I could practically smell the freshly cut grass and hear the distant shouts of children. The American dream, neatly packaged and seemingly within reach. Nothing, absolutely nothing, in that idyllic blueprint had prepared me for the seismic shift that was about to tear through my life. It was a Thursday, the air thick with the smell of leftover takeout and unspoken tension. Christine had been off, a quiet hum of anxiety replacing her usual vibrant energy. She picked at her food, her fingers twisting in her lap. Then the words came, quiet and devastating. "Jonathan," she began, her voice a barely audible tremor. I'm pregnant." The world tilted. My brain felt like it had short-circuited, the words failing to compute. "What?" I finally choked out, my own voice sounding alien. The pounding in my chest was deafening. "How? Are you sure? How long have you known?" She gnawed on her lower lip, eyes darting around the room, unable to meet mine. "I found out last week, Jonathan. I was so scared. I didn't know how to tell you, what to do, but I can't hide it anymore." Her gaze finally landed on me, wide and pleading. "I'm going to have a baby." I just stood there, mute, a thousand calculations and a million fears crashing through me. School, careers, our meticulously crafted future, all of it was suddenly under threat. This wasn't in the plan. This wasn't our plan. I sank onto the sofa beside her, the springs groaning under my weight. "Christine, we're not ready for this. We're still in college. I haven't even graduated. We're barely keeping our own heads above water. How the hell are we supposed to handle a baby?" Tears welled in her eyes, spilling onto her cheeks, but her chin remained stubbornly set. "I know it's not the plan, Jonathan. God, I know. I didn't expect this either." She took a shaky breath. "But I want to keep it. I know we're scared, but I can't not have this child. I can't." Her words were like a punch to the gut. A knot of ice formed in my stomach. "But Christine, be realistic. We can't afford this. Not just money, but everything. Our lives. This changes everything." She nodded slowly, her hands now protectively, almost defiantly, resting on her stomach. "I know it changes everything. I know it's terrifying. I'm terrified too. But it's real, Jonathan. It's happening. I can't just wish it away, and I want this. I want this baby." Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at my throat. "But what about us? What about our future? I don't know if I can do this. My head is spinning." "We had a timeline, plans?" Christine reached for my hand, her fingers icy against mine. "I'm scared too, Jonathan. Believe me. But my heart, it knows what it wants. We don't have all the answers, but I truly believe we can figure it out. Together." I looked into her eyes, searching for a crack in her resolve, but found only a tender determination. She wasn't asking for my permission. She was stating a fact. The decision had already been made, etched in her mind. I couldn't exactly blame her fear, her desire. I was terrified too. But this wasn't just about my fear anymore. It was about a commitment, a terrifying, unplanned leap into the unknown. As much as my insides screamed in protest, as much as I worried about the crushing weight of responsibility, walking away wasn't an option. I told myself I supported her choice because, somewhere deep down, I believed it was what she needed, and therefore, what we needed. I was ready, or so I thought, to face this new, daunting chapter. I was a fool. The truth, when it finally came, didn't just shatter my world, it atomized it. It was a bleak, cold morning, the kind where the sky itself seems to weep. Christine had been a ghost for days, her usual light extinguished by a suffocating blanket of anxiety and guilt. I knew something was deeply wrong, a festering secret poisoning the air between us. When she finally broke, the confession spilled out, and the ground beneath my feet dissolved. "Jonathan," she started, her voice trembling so violently she could barely form the words, I have to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long, long time ago." A pit of dread opened in my stomach. I watched, paralyzed, as tears streamed down her face, her hands scrubbing at her cheeks, as if trying to erase the words before they were even spoken. I I wasn't completely honest with you about things. Her breath hitched. I I was also with Patrick. Patrick, my brother. The name hit me with the force of a physical blow. My mind reeled, unable to process the grotesque implication. I stared at her, my heart hammering against my ribs, the room starting to spin. What? What are you? What the hell are you talking about? You and Patrick? My voice was a strangled whisper. Christine, you can't mean that. That's insane. Her sobs became frantic, guttural sounds of despair. She buried her face in her hands, refusing to look at me. I'm so sorry, Jonathan. Please. You have to believe me. I never meant for any of this to happen. It was a mistake. A horrible, stupid mistake. A mistake? I repeated, my voice cracking, then rising in a surge of disbelief and fury. A mistake? Christine, how could you? How could you do this to me? To us? 2 years. We built a life. We had dreams, and this is how you repay me? With my own brother? Her voice was muffled by her hands, barely audible. I didn't plan it, Jonathan. I swear. I never, ever wanted to hurt you. But it happened. And now I'm pregnant. She lifted her tear-ravaged face, her eyes filled with a horrifying blend of guilt and something else, something I couldn't quite name. And Patrick. Patrick is the father. The room constricted, the walls closing in. Patrick, my brother, the person I trusted implicitly, the man who was supposed to be my best friend, my confidant. He had slept with my girlfriend. He was the father of the baby she was carrying. The baby I just minutes ago naively agreed to help raise. Rage, a white-hot, blinding inferno, consumed me. Hurt, betrayal, disbelief, a toxic cocktail flooding my system. I couldn't breathe. I needed to hear it from him. I needed him to look me in the eye, or at least say the words over the phone, and own this monstrous act. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, dialing Patrick's number. It rang twice, then he picked up, his voice sickeningly casual. Yeah, what's up? Patrick, I managed, my voice hoarse, trembling. We need to talk, right now. I know about you and Christine. A desperate plea crept in. Man, just tell me it's not true. Please. A beat of silence stretched across the line, thick and suffocating. When he finally spoke, his voice was chillingly indifferent, devoid of any discernible emotion. Jonathan, it happened. So what? What's the big deal? We're all adults here. It was a one-time thing, a bit of fun. Honestly, it doesn't change anything. I don't see why you're making such a drama out of it. We should just move on. My stomach churned violently. Move on? You're telling me to move on? After what you did? You slept with my girlfriend. The woman I was building a life with, got her pregnant, and you think that's nothing? You're my brother, you goddamn Judas. You were supposed to have my back. Patrick let out an audible sigh, a sound of pure, unadulterated boredom. Look, I'm sorry if you're upset, but It is what it is. There's no need to get hysterical. You'll get over it. People do. The sheer callousness, the utter lack of remorse was like a physical assault. My hands clenched into fists. So that's it? That's all you have to say? You're just gonna brush this off like you spilled coffee on my shirt? Yeah, Patrick replied, his voice flat. Pretty much. The click of him ending the call echoed in the sudden silence. I stood there, vibrating with a rage so profound it left me breathless. He hadn't apologized. He hadn't shown an ounce of regret. He acted as if it was his goddamn right. I don't remember driving home, only the red mist in my vision and the roar in my ears. Patrick was in his room, door slightly ajar. The moment he saw the fury in my eyes, he tried to bolt, scrambling like a cornered rat. I was on him in an instant. Years of suppressed frustration of playing the good, responsible older brother erupted. I hit him again and again, the sickening thud of my fists against his flesh a perverse sort of music. My knuckles split, blood smearing his face, my face. I didn't stop until my father, drawn by the commotion, dragged me off, his face a mask of bewildered anger. He hauled me out, then rushed back to tend to his precious, battered son. My mother appeared, her face pale. I spat out the story, the betrayal, Christine's pregnancy, Patrick's paternity. Her reaction was unsettling. No shock, no outrage, not even discernible worry. It was as if she'd been expecting this, or something like it. Her primary concern, sickeningly, was for Patrick, for the disruption to his life. She looked at me, her eyes cool, almost distant. This is part of a divine plan, Jonathan, she murmured, her voice regaining its familiar pious cadence. It's all in God's hands. We must accept his will. Everything happens for a reason. We have to trust that this is part of a bigger picture. I stared at her, aghast. Accept it? Accept it? Mom, are you insane? This isn't some theological debate. This is my life, falling apart around me because of him, and you're telling me to just accept it as God's plan. She shrugged, her expression infuriatingly placid. Everything does happen for a reason, dear. You have to find it in your heart to accept it. There's a higher purpose, even if we can't see it clearly right now. We must all play our part. My father, who had always been the stern enforcer of morality, simply nodded in solemn agreement with my mother's pronouncements. Patrick's egregious betrayal? Christine's deception. Apparently, these were just minor plot points in God's grand narrative. They didn't even address his actions directly. I tried to articulate the maelstrom inside me, the betrayal, the fury, the profound sense of loss. My words felt like pebbles against a granite wall of their unshakable, self-serving faith. Then they started talking about family, about supporting Patrick. That's when the last vestiges of my composure shattered. You need to rise above this, Jonathan, my mother said, her voice soft, almost cooing, as if speaking to a recalcitrant child. This is an opportunity for us, as a family, to show love and forgiveness. Your brother made a mistake, a lapse in judgment, and we all must rally around him. Everything happens for a reason, Jonathan. You need to release your anger and trust. It's part of the divine plan. Blood roared in my ears. Her words weren't comforting. They were daggers. I wanted to scream, to rail against their monumental, hypocritical blindness. Mom, you don't understand, I seethed, my voice tight with unshed tears of rage. This isn't some abstract plan. This is real. Patrick, my own brother, stabbed me in the back. And you're telling me to just forgive him? Just like that? My father, his face a stony mask of disapproval, fixed me with a cold stare. Jonathan, you are the older brother, he said, his tone laced with its usual heavy-handed authority. It is your responsibility to set the example, to be the bigger person. We have sacrificed a great deal for you boys. Now, it's your turn to step up and show compassion. Compassion? The word tasted like ash in my mouth. Compassion for what? For the man who systematically destroyed my relationship, my trust, my future? How can you even ask that of me? How can you be so blind to the pain I'm in? He betrayed me, Dad, in the worst possible way. I clenched my fists, my body trembling. You don't get it, I choked out. This isn't about being the bigger person. You're asking me to condone his actions, to pretend that this monumental betrayal is just a hiccup. You have no idea what this feels like, to have someone you loved and trusted spit in your face. My mother's expression softened, but not with understanding, with pity. That was worse. Jonathan, you're making this so much harder than it needs to be. You need to forgive him for your own peace of mind. We can't live in this state of anger. Trust that this is all part of something far greater than us, something we cannot control. Forgive him? The words exploded from me. Forgive him for what? For annihilating my life? For shattering every illusion I ever had about this family, about loyalty, about a future I was building? Their response was always the same infuriating, sanctimonious drivel. They recoiled from the raw, ugly reality of the situation, retreating into the comfortable, impenetrable fortress of their faith. It was easier to spout platitudes about divine plans than to confront the cruelty, the sheer selfishness of what Patrick had done and what Christine had enabled. I felt like I was drowning in their willful ignorance, suffocated by their narrow, judgmental worldview. The days that followed were a slow-motion nightmare. Every interaction with my parents was a fresh stab of the knife, a reminder that I was an outsider in my own home, my pain and inconvenience to their carefully constructed narrative. The pressure was relentless. Be a better person, forgive Patrick, rise above it, support the new family unit. The more they pushed, the more I recoiled, feeling myself being squeezed into a mold I no longer fit if I ever truly had. Jonathan, my father said one evening, his voice heavy with disappointment as we sat around the dinner table, the silence thick with unspoken accusations. We've given you everything. We've worked ourselves to the bone, sacrificed for your future, and now, when the family faces a crisis, you refuse to help fix things. This is your chance to show your character, to prove you're stronger than this petty resentment. Fix things? I stared at him. What exactly is there to fix? How do I fix a betrayal of this magnitude? How do I fix the fact that my brother is a morally bankrupt snake and my girlfriend was sleeping with him? The worst part was their utter inability to hear me, to see the situation from any perspective, but their own warped, self-serving one. They weren't offering love or support. They were engaged in a campaign of emotional manipulation, using their beliefs as a bludgeon to force my compliance. They had already made their choice. Patrick and Christine were the new focus, the recipients of their unwavering support, and I was expected to fall in line, to play the role of the magnanimous, forgiving victim. I tried one last time to reason with them, my voice raw with desperation. I can't do this, I said, my throat tight. I can't support Patrick, not after this. He betrayed my trust, fundamental trust. How am I supposed to just forget that, to smile and pretend everything's okay? It's not about being a good brother anymore. It's about self-preservation. My father's face flushed a dangerous shade of crimson. He slammed his fist on the table, the dishes rattling, making me flinch. You're being utterly selfish, Jonathan. This is about family unity. Your brother made a mistake. He's trying to do the right thing now by Christine and the child, and you're turning your back on him when he needs support the most. We've always been there for you, through thick and thin. Now it's your damn turn to step up. Something inside me snapped. I slammed my own fist on the table, rising to my feet, my chair scraping harshly against the floor. No, I am not going to pretend this is normal. What Patrick did, what Christine did, it's not something you just overlook. It's not about being a good brother. It's about having some goddamn integrity. And right now, I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. And frankly, your blind support of him is disgusting. My mother's voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes as she reached out, her hand trembling as it grasped mine. Please, Jonathan, she begged, her voice thick with emotion. You don't understand. This is a test of our faith. God's plan is so much bigger than our individual desires. You can't turn your back on Patrick, on this new life. This may not be the path you envision, but it's the path God has chosen. If you just trust, if you just accept, everything will work out for the best. Her words, meant to soothe, only suffocated me further. You don't get it, do you? I pulled my hand away. You never get it. You've never held Patrick accountable for anything in his entire damn life. He's always been your golden boy, capable of no wrong. You've let him skate by on charm and your indulgence, and now you want me to just play along with the charade? I can't. I won't. I stood there, my hands shaking, fighting to maintain some semblance of control. I have my own life to think about, a future he helped torpedo. I can't just drop everything and clean up the monumental mess he's made. It's not my responsibility, and it's his. They stared at me, a long, heavy silence descending. Then my father spoke, his voice like chips of ice. Then you're no longer welcome in this house, Jonathan. The words hit me like a physical blow. My heart seemed to stop. What? I whispered, struggling to process the finality in his tone. You heard me, he said, his gaze unyielding, brutal. We've made our decision. We cannot have this bitterness, this refusal to forgive under our roof. If you're not willing to support your family, to accept the situation God has presented us with, then you need to leave. We can't harbor this kind of negativity, not now, not when Christine needs peace and support. I was stunned into silence. You're actually kicking me out? Yes, he stated flatly. You've made your choice, Jonathan. Now, we're making ours. The world swam. The gravity of their ultimatum crashed down on me. They were serious. But I have nowhere to go, I stammered, a sickening wave of disbelief and white-hot anger washing over me. This is my home. My whole life has been here. You'll figure it out, my mother said quietly, her eyes filled with a sorrow that felt manufactured, overlaid with a chilling sense of finality. Perhaps this is for the best. Perhaps you need to learn a lesson from this. But if you're not going to support your brother and Christine, you cannot stay here. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them back, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. And this isn't right, I said, my voice barely a whisper, all the fight draining out of me. Without another word, they both turned away, a clear, unequivocal dismissal. That was it. The door had been slammed shut. I grabbed what few belongings I could quickly gather, my movements stiff, robotic. My family, my future, my dreams, the college fund I'd meticulously saved for, which I now knew with chilling certainty would be diverted to Patrick's divine child. Everything was dissolving like smoke. How could they be so cruel, so dismissive of my pain, my future? But I was nothing to them now, an inconvenient truth in their narrative of Patrick's redemption. I had no place in their divine plan. And so I walked out that door, leaving behind the only life I'd ever known, the taste of betrayal bitter on my tongue. The first few weeks were a disorienting blur of anger, grief, and sheer survival. I crashed on a long-suffering friend's lumpy couch, the springs digging into my back like a constant reminder of my new, diminished reality. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my old bedroom, meticulously redecorated in pastels, transformed into a nursery for a child conceived in deceit. The resentment was a living thing coiling in my gut. My college fund, the fruit of years of summer jobs and frugal living, money I'd entrusted to my parents for safekeeping, was gone. Swallowed whole, no doubt, to support Patrick and Christine's new life. Legal action? A bitter laugh escaped me. With what resources? Against my own parents. The thought was exhausting. Another battle I didn't have the strength or funds to fight. The silence from my family was the most brutal blow. No calls, no texts, no token gestures of concern. It was as if an eraser had been taken to my existence. I, who had always been the responsible one, the reliable one, was now a non-entity. One day, in a moment of weakness I still regret, I texted my mother, "How are you?" "Miss you guys." Her reply came hours later, short, cold, and utterly dismissive. "We're fine. Patrick is doing wonderfully. He's really stepping up for Christine and the baby. We think he'll be a great father." No mention of me. No inquiry about my well-being. Just a glowing report on Patrick, the golden child, and his burgeoning family, the family that had supplanted me. Any subsequent rare communication followed the same pattern. Patrick's responsibility, Patrick's commitment, Patrick's exemplary fatherhood. The betrayal, the lies, the sheer ugliness of it all. erased, whitewashed by their desperate need to believe in this new, blessed reality. I enrolled in community college, a pale imitation of my previous ambitions, and found a part-time job slinging coffee, the smell of burnt espresso clinging to me like a shroud. I tried to numb myself to the past, but the anger was a stubborn ember, always threatening to reignite. One night, in the sterile silence of my tiny rented room, the bare walls mocking me, the full weight of my losses crashed down. My meticulously planned future, my sense of belonging, my very identity, all gone. I'd been so focused on being the good son, the supportive partner, that I never saw the knives they were sharpening behind their pious smiles. And yet, here I was, alone. The anger, the hurt, the confusion, they were all still there, simmering beneath a carefully constructed facade of indifference. But more than anything, there was a vast, gnawing emptiness. What I'd lost wasn't just a family or a future, it was my place in the world. And that, I suspected, was irreplaceable. Years drifted by, marked by the changing seasons outside my cramped apartment window rather than by any meaningful contact with my family. The silence between us had solidified, becoming a familiar, almost comfortable void. I'd long since abandoned any expectation of reconciliation or remorse. Then one ordinary Tuesday, a number I hadn't seen in what felt like a lifetime flashed on my phone screen. My mother. For a long moment, I just stared at it, my thumb hovering over the answer button. A jolt, cold and sharp, went through me. Part of me, the scarred, wary part, screamed to ignore it, to let it ring into the oblivion it deserved. But a deeper, more perverse curiosity, the kind that makes you poke at a wound, won out. I swiped to answer. Hello? My voice was carefully neutral, betraying none of the sudden turbulence inside. Son? Her voice. Weaker than I remembered, laced with a tremor, frayed at the edges. She said my name like an incantation, as if the mere utterance could bridge the chasm of years and silence. Jonathan? I let the silence stretch, a deliberate, calculated pause. I wanted her to feel the weight of those years, every single day of my exile. Her breath hitched. Jonathan, we've lost everything, she choked out, the words tumbling over each other in a rush of desperation. The house, our savings, everything. We never saw it coming. It was a bad investment, some kind of fraud. Your father? He was too proud, too stubborn to admit anything was wrong until it was too late, her voice cracked. And now we're barely scraping by. We can't even keep the lights on consistently. We don't know what to do. Please. A dry, humorless sound escaped my lips. I kept my tone flat, devoid of inflection. I'm listening. Oh, Jonathan. The desperation in her voice was palpable, cloying. I wish things had been so different. I regret everything. How we treated you, how we pushed you away. I never wanted to hurt you, son. You have to believe that. Another pause, then the inevitable plea, please, please come home. We need you. You're all we have left. Please, be the son we need now. The same old script, just a new crisis. My turn to be the savior, now that their chosen one had apparently failed them. You know, I said, my voice still eerily calm, each word carefully enunciated. It's been, 3 years? 3 years since you decided I wasn't needed, wasn't family enough. 3 years since you took everything I'd worked for, my college fund, my future, and handed it over to your golden boy and his situation. You chose him. You made your bed. And now, after all this time, you think a few tears and a sob story are going to magically erase all of that? I let the silence hang, heavy and accusatory. I've spent these last 3 years rebuilding my life from the ashes you left me in. Brick by painful brick. In solitude. I didn't ask to be abandoned. I didn't ask for any of this. And now you have the audacity to call me, expecting me to what? Bail you out? Absolve you with a superficial apology? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Each word was a precisely aimed dart. She started to stammer an interruption, but I cut her off, my voice hardening, number. You don't get to rewrite history because it's suddenly convenient for you. You didn't need me then, I said, the coldness in my voice absolute. And you certainly don't need me now. I meant nothing to you then, and that's fine. It's clear now. Jonathan, don't say that. Her voice cracked with a desperate edge. Don't you, don't you despise us so much that you'd let us suffer like this? We're your parents. Blood is thicker than anything. Thicker than any disagreement, any bond. A laugh, devoid of any mirth, escaped me. It was a hollow, bitter sound. Blood, I spat. Blood only seems to matter to you when it's convenient, doesn't it? When you need a janitor to clean up your monumental messes, suddenly I'm family. But when I was the one who needed family, when I was left with absolutely nothing, you threw me out like yesterday's garbage. So please spare me the sanctimonious lectures about blood. She gasped, a choked sob echoing down the line. I'm just a simple human, Mother, I continued, my voice dripping with a sarcasm that mirrored her own past pronouncements. Incapable of understanding these grand divine designs you were so fond of quoting. If this, your current predicament, is part of God's mysterious plan, then who am I to interfere? Perhaps you should just accept it, like you expected me to accept being cast out, to accept losing everything I'd worked for, to forgive the unforgivable. Her sobs intensified, punctuated by frantic, pleading words. Please, Jonathan, please. We regret it. I swear we regret it all. We've learned our lesson. Don't you see? We've changed. No, I said, my voice unwavering. Your regret means absolutely nothing to me. Your repentance, if it even exists, is between you and your God. It's not my burden to bear. I'm not your savior. I'm not your second chance. I am simply the son you discarded, the one who had to claw his way back to life after you and Dad and Patrick tore everything apart. She started to babble about the past, about childhood memories, a desperate attempt to evoke some long dead sentimentality. I loved you then, Jonathan, she whispered, her voice thick with tears. I love you now. I've always loved you. Love? I cut her off, my voice like ice. Love isn't a switch you can flip on and off when it suits your agenda. And love is certainly not what you showed me when you kicked me out of my home, when you pillaged my savings, my future, and called it divine will. Now that your gilded world is collapsing, now that you're sinking fast, perhaps you should try, accepting this as God's divine will. Her sobs were ragged, desperate, but they found no purchase in me. I had shed too many tears in solitude, spent too many nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if the ache in my chest would ever subside. Her belated remorse couldn't touch me now. Not the decisions you made, Mother, have consequences, I told her, my voice flat, devoid of any lingering warmth. And it's not my responsibility to shield you from them. You're finally experiencing the direct result of your actions, your choices, your blind favoritism. A cruel thought surfaced, and I voiced it without hesitation. Maybe you should turn to Patrick for help. After all, he's the one you chose. He's the family you invested everything in. If anyone should be bailing you out, it's him. She tried to argue, to plead, her words dissolving into incoherent sobs. She begged me not to hang up. I wish you peace in your faith, Mother, I said, my voice distant, mimicking the detachment she had once shown me. The same faith that was so conveniently used as an instrument to destroy my life. And with that, I ended the call. I sat there for a long time, the phone heavy in my hand. I expected a storm of emotion, anger, sadness, perhaps even a flicker of guilt. Instead, there was nothing. Just a cold, hollow stillness. They had meticulously built this wall between us, brick by brick, and now it was insurmountable. I put the phone down, the screen dark. I resumed what I was doing before she called, as if nothing of consequence had happened. And perhaps that was the most disturbing realization of all. Their desperation, their tears, their supposed repentance, no longer registered. They had successfully, irrevocably turned me into a stranger. And I, in turn, had finally completely accepted it. My phone buzzed again not long after. Patrick. A fresh wave of bile rose in my throat. I let it ring, then, with a sigh of weary resignation, answered. I wasn't going to be the person I once was with him, ever again. Jonathan. His voice surprisingly subdued, almost hesitant. Man, I wanted to talk to you. The sound of his voice, even now, conjured a vivid image of his smug, entitled face. My stomach clenched. What do you want, Patrick? I asked, my tone glacial. He cleared his throat. Look, I know things have been complicated. Complicated? I echoed, a humorless laugh escaping me. That's one word for it. Try catastrophic, betraying, life-altering. Okay, you're right, he conceded, a rare admission. That's not the issue right now. There's something I need to explain. To try and, I don't know, make you understand. I didn't want to listen. I didn't want his excuses, his inevitable, self-serving narrative. But a tiny perverse part of me was curious to hear what new brand of bullshit he was peddling. I'm sorry, Jonathan, he said, the words sounding hollow, rehearsed. I truly am. I made a colossal mistake. I didn't know how to handle things with Christine, with the baby. Everything just spiraled. I never wanted it to turn out like this. For a fleeting, treacherous moment, my resolve wavered. Was that a flicker of genuine remorse? Could he possibly be capable of it? Then, the anger, a familiar, faithful companion, surged back, hot and cleansing. I'm sorry, I repeated, the sarcasm practically dripping from my tongue. Is that it? Is that the best you can dredge up after everything? After systematically dismantling my life, my relationship, my trust in my own damn brother? A generic, two-word apology? Patrick was silent for a long moment, the dead air crackling with unspoken resentment. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer, tinged with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. Maybe it was actual regret, or just fear of the consequences finally catching up. I'm not trying to make excuses, Jonathan. And I'm not asking for your money or for you to fix mom and dad's situation. I'm trying to make things right, or at least acknowledge how wrong I was. For you, for Christine, for the baby. There it was again. Christine and the baby. As if their welfare was somehow my concern, my responsibility. The coldness inside me spread, extinguishing any lingering embers of empathy. Stop, I cut him off, my voice rising, shaking with a sudden violent rage. Just stop talking, Patrick. I don't want to hear another word. This isn't about your pathetic apologies or your belated self-serving remorse. This is about the deliberate choices you made, the pain you inflicted, the betrayal you orchestrated. You turned your back on me, on everything we were supposed to be as brothers. Nothing you say now can ever undo that. Nothing. His voice quivered. Jonathan, please. No, I said flatly, the emotional wellspring bone dry. I don't want to hear it. I ended the call, my hand steady. He could apologize until he was blue in the face. It wouldn't change a damn thing. The damage was done. The bridges burned to ash. A week later, the phone again. This time, Christine. Her name on the caller ID sent a jolt of pure, unadulterated loathing through me. Curiosity, that damn persistent itch, made me answer. Hello, Jonathan. Her voice softer now, more fragile than I remembered it. Hi. I hope you're doing well. Silence. I let it hang, thick and accusatory. I wasn't going to make this easy for her. It's been a while, she stammered. I'm sorry to just reach out like this. But your mother? She told me about what happened last week, about the call. She told me things are really bad for them. Her tone shifted, becoming more pleading. Look, Jonathan, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I wanted to ask you to consider one thing. Your nephew. He's innocent in all of this. He didn't ask for any of this. He shouldn't have to suffer because of the mistakes the rest of us made. The audacity. It was breathtaking. After everything, after the lies, the betrayal, the destruction they had collectively wrought, she was calling me, using a child, their child, as emotional leverage. A slow, venomous anger began to uncoil in my chest. He looks up to you, Jonathan, she continued, her voice gaining a desperate urgency, even though he's never met you. Patrick tells him stories. He deserves a chance, a fair chance. And if you could find it in your heart to forgive them, to help them, it could mean so much. It could really change things for him. Stop, I said, my voice quiet. but as cold and sharp as a shard of glass. Just stop. I don't want to hear another word about that child. A small, choked gasp on her end. I, I didn't mean to upset you, Jonathan. I just thought. No, I interrupted, my voice hardening. You thought that dangling a child in front of me, a child conceived in deceit and betrayal, would somehow magically tug at my heartstrings and make me forget everything you people put me through? If you truly believe that, Christine, then you're even more delusional than I ever imagined. I wanted you to understand the situation. Oh, I understand the situation perfectly, Christine. Believe me. Another strained silence. She tried a different tack. Family is supposed to stay together, especially during hard times like these. That was it. The hypocrisy was too much. No, you don't get to lecture me about family, I snapped, my voice finally cracking, raw with a fury I'd suppressed for too long. Not after you and Patrick and my parents systematically dismantled mine. Not after they threw me out like common garbage to make room for you and your blessed child. Jonathan, please. No, let me finish. My chest was heaving. Do you have any idea what they did with my college savings, Christine? Every single cent I scraped together? They emptied it, gutted it, to decorate a goddamn nursery for the son of the man who stabbed me in the back, who slept with my girlfriend behind my back. And now you want to talk to me about family? I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Why don't you take that sermon to my dear brother, your precious husband, the golden boy who can do no wrong? Where is he now, by the way? Hiding behind your skirts as usual? He's trying, Jonathan, she whispered, her voice trembling. He's working long hours. He's doing his best to support us. Support you? I laughed again, a cruel, humorless sound. That man has never supported anyone but himself in his entire selfish, irresponsible, opportunistic life. If you married him expecting anything different, Christine, that's your monumental mistake, not mine. She was crying now, audible sobs racking her body. I felt nothing. No pity, no remorse. Please, Jonathan, she pleaded, her voice breaking. I'm begging you. We're barely holding on. We don't know how we're going to make it. We're about to lose the house, the car, everything. I'm scared. I'm so scared for my son. I don't know where else to turn. You're scared, I shot back. Maybe you should have thought about that before you crawled into bed with my brother, before you built your life on a foundation of lies and betrayal. You chose your path, Christine. You chose him. Now you get to lie in the festering mess you both created. You can live with the consequences. She tried to compose herself, her breath catching in ragged gasps. He's just a little boy, she whispered, her voice trembling. He doesn't deserve... Don't! I cut her off, my voice flat, final. Just don't! That child's future is your responsibility, Christine. Yours and Patrick's, not mine. You don't get to play the victim card now and expect me to swoop in like some goddamn savior. Find someone else to fall for your sob story. There was a pause. Then, in a voice so soft it was almost inaudible, she tried one last, desperate gambit. I know you're a good person, Jonathan. Deep down, I know you still care and about family, about us. Maybe not for our sake, but maybe for the child's. Can't you forgive us? Just for him. That was the final, unforgivable straw. My jaw tightened, the words pushing their way out, cold and deliberate. You're a coward, Christine. A manipulative coward for thinking you could use an innocent child as a bargaining chip. For believing, even for a second, that I would magically forget the years of pain and betrayal because it's suddenly inconvenient for you to deal with the fallout of your own choices. Forgive you? You're delusional. She let out a small, broken sob. I didn't hold back. You want help? Go to the architect of this entire disaster, your husband, my brother. You two deserve each other. A pair of parasites constantly taking, endlessly demanding, and offering nothing but misery in return. Her sobs grew louder, more jagged. I remained unmoved. Save your tears, Christine, I said, my voice like frozen steel. They don't work on me. Not anymore. And with that, I ended the call. My hands were shaking, not with regret, but with a deep simmering rage that had finally found its full, untamed voice. I stared at the phone, my reflection a ghostly image in the dark screen. For a fleeting, treacherous instant, I thought about the child, the innocent pawn in their pathetic game. A tiny, unexpected pang of something akin to guilt twisted in my gut. Then it vanished, swallowed whole by the brutal, hard-won truth. That child was not my responsibility. He was not my problem. I wasn't the one who had brought him into a world of chaos, deceit, and instability. That was on them. My brother, his wife. My parents. They had made their choices, they had meticulously wrecked their own lives. And now, in their desperation, they were frantically searching for someone else to blame, someone to rescue them from the consequences of their own malignant entitlement. That person was never, ever going to be me. Weeks later, an unexpected call came from Pastor Benjamin, a man I vaguely remembered from my teenage years, a relic of a past I'd tried to bury. He'd spoken to my parents. They were, in his words, very distressed. He wanted to hear my side, offering a space to speak without judgment. Hesitantly, I agreed. I laid it all out: the betrayal, the ousting, the theft of my college fund, the years of silence, the recent manipulative calls. I spoke calmly, factually, like an attorney presenting a case. He listened, truly listened, without interruption, without platitudes. When I finished, he said, his voice filled with a sincerity that surprised me, "Jonathan, I deeply regret what you've been through. No one should experience that, especially from family. I came into this call thinking I might encourage forgiveness, but now I see it's not that simple. What happened wasn't a misunderstanding, it was abandonment, betrayal." He paused. "If forgiveness ever comes, it must be on your terms. And if it never does, that's okay too. You have every right to protect your peace." His words, devoid of the usual religious coercion, resonated. A small weight I hadn't realized I was carrying seemed to lift. I told him I had no intention of reconciling. He understood. He respected it. He simply offered a prayer for my peace, in whatever form it might take. It was a strangely validating encounter. It wasn't long after that I heard about Patrick and Christine's divorce. A mutual acquaintance, still in touch with some periphery of the family, mentioned it. Apparently, Christine had hired a real shark, a notoriously aggressive divorce attorney named Victoria Sterling, known for leaving ex-husbands financially eviscerated. Patrick, true to form, had apparently tried to hide assets, underreport income, the usual scumbag maneuvers. But Sterling was relentless. There were motions, counter-motions, accusations of contempt. The legal battle was bloody in public, at least within their small community. Patrick, already reeling from the crypto scam he'd enthusiastically promoted, which I learned was the bad investment that had ruined my parents, was being taken to the cleaners. Child support was set at a cripplingly high rate, based on his previous inflated income projections before the scam collapsed. Alimony, too. He lost the house they'd shared, the one bought with, I suspected, a significant chunk of my parents' remaining funds and my stolen college money. Karma, it seemed, had finally decided to send an itemized bill with hefty interest and penalties. The news of their downfall, my parents working menial jobs, Patrick financially ruined and alone, Christine struggling but legally armed, didn't bring me joy. It brought a quiet, grim satisfaction. A sense of order, however harsh, being restored to a universe they had so thoroughly disrupted. The final act came on a sweltering August evening, nearly a year after the last desperate phone call from Christine. I was home, the cheap air conditioner rattling in the window, when a hesitant knock echoed through my small apartment. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find Christine standing there, looking older, more worn than I'd ever seen her. Her clothes were neat but inexpensive, her eyes shadowed, with a weariness that seemed bone deep. And in her arms, she held a small child, a boy of about 4, with wide, curious eyes and a mop of familiar dark hair. My brother's hair. A suffocating silence descended. "Jonathan," she said, her voice barely a whisper, raw with an emotion I couldn't or wouldn't decipher. I just stared, my face an unreadable mask. She gestured awkwardly with her chin towards the boy. This is Leo, your nephew." The boy looked up at me, then quickly hid his face in Christine's shoulder. "He needs things, Jonathan," she continued. her voice gaining a desperate edge, the old entitlement resurfacing, thinly veiled by a veneer of maternal concern. School supplies, clothes, Patrick isn't paying what he's supposed to. The court orders. They don't mean much when there's no money to get. And your parents? They can't help. She took a shaky breath, her eyes pleading. It's your niece. Nephew, she corrected herself, flustered. Oh, you're responsible for the baby too, you know? You're his uncle. If you'd just, if you'd paid more attention to me back then, if you'd been more supportive, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe Patrick wouldn't have. The sheer unmitigated gall of it, to stand there after everything and try to pin even a shred of this disaster on me. A cold, hard calm settled over me. The years of pain, of rebuilding, of forging an identity out of their wreckage, coalesced into a single, unshakable resolve. I looked her straight in the eye, my voice devoid of any emotion, flat and final. Christine, I said, each word a perfectly polished stone of contempt. You, your son Patrick, my parents, you're all products of your own choices. You built this life. You live with it. Her face crumpled. But he's your family? He's innocent. He is your son, Christine. Your responsibility, not mine. I took a small step back, my hand already moving towards the door. You came here looking for a lifeline. There isn't one here for you. Not anymore. Not ever. Tears streamed down her face. Jonathan, please, don't do this for Leo. What am I supposed to do? I looked past her at the grimy hallway of my apartment building, at the life I had painstakingly rebuilt from the rubble they had left behind. Then I looked back at her, at the desperate, entitled woman who had played a starring role in my personal inferno. Go to hell, Christine, I said, the words leaving my lips without a trace of heat, just the icy finality of a tombstone. And take your problems with you. I closed the door in her face, the click of the lock echoing in the sudden, profound silence of my apartment. I didn't look back. There was nothing left to see. The end.